We're millennials, this is how we do it. We make good money, but we're broke and we're going through it. We have many problems, we know how to hustle through it. Millennials run the world and we're here to prove it. We're millennials, this is how we do it. We make good money.
Tuned into Millennial Mindstate,
Seeing the world through millennial eyes. I'm your host, Dr. Cher.
and I'm your host, LC.
Welcome. As you saw in our last trailer, we introduced what a millennial is, told you the age ranges and the years, and explained how awesome we are, or how ratchet we are. But nevertheless, today's show, we're going to talk about millennials in the workplace.
And we're going to discuss a few things, one of them being millennial workplace myths. So there's a lot of things that get said about millennials, especially their work ethic. So we definitely have somebody here that is an expert in that field. Dr. Cher is an HR director, so she's going to go through some of the things that get said, the misconceptions, and kind of clarify a lot about how we are when it comes to work.
Right. So as Elsie said, I'm an HR director. I have about almost 9 years of experience. And I work with millennials. I'm a millennial. I love working with millennials. But employers see millennials as entitled. That is the first myth. They're like, they're entitled. They come in here asking for all of this money. They come in here asking for all of these benefits and they don't have any experience. So that alone kind of makes employers leery about wanting to hire them because they feel like, well, we're not going to be able to afford them, or if they're starting off at such a high salary, there's nowhere else to go.
That is very, very true. I can say so for myself. One of the things about our matriculation through our collegiate experience is that we have the perception that once we graduate, we're going to make a lot of money. Sky's the limit. It's going to rain money.
Yes.
Because I have a degree. I have an undergraduate degree.
Right.
It was something that someone said to me. I was going after a particular career, and I remember I waited until I graduated because my dad said go to school, get a 4-year degree, and then you can go in as this type of person. And so I went to go talk to this recruiter person, and I'm like, yeah, I have a bachelor's degree. And the guy said everybody has a bachelor's degree. He was like, everybody has a bachelor's degree, and I was like, oh,
okay.
And so one of my professors, encouraged me to go on to get my master's, and so with that being said, I went and did that, but once I graduated with my master's, that's when I realized how difficult it was to actually gain employment because whereas I had the education, I did not have the experience. So tell us what you see in the HR world and how that coincides with what I just said.
Right. So in the HR world, if you have a master's, that's fine. But if you have a master's in, for instance, government, like I have a master's in public administration. However, I work in HR and I work at a staffing firm. So no one respects my master's. Now, if I was in government and had a master's, the government is very structured, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, they kind of go up the hierarchy in that way. So that would be respected. Or in a specific trade like accounting or something like that. But if you have a master's that's mismatched with what you're doing, which most of us, I feel, do, then nobody cares. And then they're going to say, well, I have a master's, I should be paid, X amount. They're just going to look at you like you have a high school diploma. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
It's very true. A large percentage of millennials do not work in the career field that their master shows.
Yes.
I am one of them. Like I said, I have a master's in public administration as well.
Right.
And I work in a construction management field.
Mm-hmm.
And so who would have ever thought that with my master's I'd be in that? So they really don't care what my master's is, or the fact that I have a master's.
Yeah.
Can you do the job or not?
Exactly.
It's a nice piece of paper to hang on the wall and say this is what I have, but I really wish that I would have gone back and either worked more in that field. Mm-hmm. I did an internship with a government agency, but I should have did it early on or continue to stay in that field if I wanted my career to reflect my master's.
Yeah, and I would say too, and I would say this to anybody, if I could go back and do it all over again, I have a doctorate, I have a master's, if I could do it all over again, I would have none of these things. I would have gotten a bachelor's and I would have gotten nothing but certifications. I would have just been certified, because that's what really pays, because the certification says, yeah, I actually can do the work. A degree says, I've read about it, I'm really good at making good grades, I study well, but it doesn't really confirm that you could do that. And I would say too, when you were saying that now you work in construction, and in my mind I'm thinking, well, why? Why did we start off with one area and then now we're in a completely different area? I know for me, when I graduated, it was at the time of the recession. And so you just had to get whatever you could get. And then, and I know your situation, LC relocated. So then it's like, okay, well, I'm going from this comfort zone, and then now I have to, look at a whole new city, a whole new set of people, a whole new set of connections. So those play a role, and then the millennials sometimes end up just kind of getting in where they fit in.
That's true. That is very, very true. One of the things that Dr. Sherry just mentioned is that I relocated. Once I graduated my master's in Savannah, I found it was very difficult to find something in my field. So I just took a leap of faith and moved up to the Metro Atlanta area. Just to give you a small synopsis, been here 5 years, and when I got here, didn't have a job at all, just kind of hit the ground running, networking, volunteering for stuff, and I met a lot of key people. And my first boss, he gave me a chance. He said, you know what? He asked me to host one of his receptions. He's very well known in the city, especially in the political. I can't tell you, girl. Especially in the political world. So he brought me on his team, created a position for me, and that's how I learned. All of my jobs up here have been by learning and word of mouth. It's all been by recommendations. Like, oh, LC, she's a great worker. She does this, she does that. Okay, we're gonna bring her on our firm. So I'm a project consultant as well. So outside of my regular job working on the engineering project, I also do other projects for other firms as well. So it's all about who you know. That is very, very real. So I never anticipated being in this field.
Right.
I just happened to be in it for the last 4 years, and I'm like, you know what? And I worked my way up. I learned because I really had to jump in there and figure it out.
Right.
So that was key.
Yeah, I would say one of the final myths that we'll talk about is that millennials are lazy. That's one of the main myths, and it's weird because it's 50-50. Some people think that we're all so lazy. And the other 50% think that we do too much. They're like, well, we're in a meeting and she has all these ideas and the agenda, like, why don't she just chill? But for us, that's where, we came from professionalism, we came from excellence, and then the other half think that we're lazy, that we don't come with things like an agenda, with things to talk about. So it's really interesting. I mean, I'm a millennial, so I am very biased. When I interview them, I kind of give them tips like, hey girl, don't do that. Hey girl, take that clown, that unicorn phone case off your phone. Hey, just don't even bring your phone. So I try to tell them that, but every HR person is not going to do that. But I want them to succeed, of course. So I try to give them a little bit heads up.
Yeah, that's very true, because a part of my role as well is I also conduct interviews, and I try not to be as harsh on the candidates, because I do. And like I said, my very first job up here, I learned a lot from my boss, and he was very on it about your appearance, this, that, and the third. You represent the company.
Right.
So when I see your email and it says pretty boy I'm just like, I already know. Yeah. I already know your affiliation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The year gave it away. Right. But you just sent me this email. So how can I take you seriously?
Right.
That was a real life candidate that I had to kind of like, hey, I think that you should definitely change your email. And guess what? He didn't show up for the interview. He called. The interview was at 1 o'clock. He called at like 1:04 and was like, he had some court stuff going on.
At least he called. I've been getting no call, no shows. And I would say too that when you said email, it reminded me. If you have a Yahoo email address or AOL, or whatever is old as I don't know what, please take that off. Just get a Gmail, it's free. Because as soon as we see that, we're like, either it's just dated. It just screams it's dated. And then also your hobbies and stuff like that. Even if you are out of school recently, don't put your hobbies on there. This last resume I had last week was professional paintball player. I'm not playing. Professional paintball player. Right, so take that off. So we will be back in a second. You'll hear from our sponsors.
Run uncut.
Yeah.
This is what you want.
Yeah.
Well, here you go. Say run me my money. Run me my money. Say run me my money. Run me my money. Say run me my money. Run me my money. Run me my money. Run me my money. Hola.
So when it comes to research, the research that you do before you go to a job, I know me, I can't remember all these facts and dates and things like that. So if I interview with you, I might not do well because I'm like, oh, what year were they, whatever. So I always remember what year the company came on the scene. And then after that, if you do remember maybe a couple of their principles or, whatever they're listing on their site, and always state what they most recently did. So every company generally has like press info, a section about, something they recently did. Say that, like, I saw that you guys recently traveled to Africa to do blah, 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 blah. So you can say that on there. That helps a lot just in making you seem like you know what you're talking about.
That's true. I agree. I definitely agree on that.
So you would, if I said that, then I would be okay in your interview.
You would, because I'd be like, they did some research, kudos. Because just like I stated before, just how you do research on, the newest album, CD out, just the track list, you can do research on that company. It goes a long way, and employers like to see that this person has been, taking the time out to look at our company. Like, okay, that's impressive. So you know about that groundbreaking ceremony we had the other day? Like, absolutely, I was there.
Stalker, I was there.
You have to go after what you want. So, next thing, they're like, oh, okay. Now that we talked about the interview process, and let's reiterate again your attire when you come to an interview. No bright hair, no bright nails,
no jeans.
Please dress professionally. It's so many people who, just because it's not some executive position, they come to the interview just, relaxed and unkept. So I don't care if it's just for McDonald's. Please make sure that you are up to par. Yeah. In our field, it's not a big emphasis on it. People come in jeans and steel-toe boots. That's the field that we're in.
Oh yeah, your field, yeah.
I get a little antsy, like, my boss is like, do they have the certification?
That's all they care
What's
about.
the experience? Right. I don't care what he has on, as long as it's clean, it's presentable. But definitely want to talk about that. Let's talk about how to get jobs. What would you say is the most effective way to get a job? We were taught to do the search engines, and you go to the large sites like Career Builder, Indeed, and stuff like that, LinkedIn. Do you really see a high result from that? Like, what do you say is beneficial?
Actually, I work for a staffing company now. They are hard on Indeed and LinkedIn. That's where they find all of their people. We have a Career Builder account. I actually don't ever hear anyone saying, "Oh, I found this great resume on Career Builder." I never hear them say that. I mean, in my particular company that I work in. But definitely Indeed, definitely LinkedIn. And two, a lot of our recruiters attend different networking events. So I always say, if you're an introvert, try to get a little bit of extrovert skills in terms of if you find yourself at a networking event, you can kind of maneuver. If you're just straight introvert, you don't want to talk to anybody, hit that Indeed hard, hit that LinkedIn hard, make connections. On LinkedIn, they have groups. They have different groups. Like, I'm in some HR blah 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 group on LinkedIn. Add to the different groups, because in those groups then you find actual humans. So it kind of goes from virtual to a real connection, and they say, we're meeting at this place and we're having this event. So that's what I would say. I mean, that human connection still kind of reigns. You kind of get it seen from the applicant tracking systems, but that human to human contact, it still reigns number one.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. And don't be afraid to attend job fairs. A lot of people feel like wasting my time.
Yeah.
Some companies companies just do it because they have to do it.
Right.
And they're not even looking for applicants. But you definitely want to go. Definitely do the research. Have an idea of the company you want to work for.
Right.
That's very important because sometimes they have outreach events. Sometimes they have mixers where, you know, they're doing hiring events. So you definitely want to get in front of that so that way you can be in front of those hiring managers.
Right.
So, you know, let's say Boom Boom USA is having a networking event or even a hiring event. So you've already done your research. You already know I want to take up this position at this firm.
Right.
I'm going to go. So you know you've already sought out people that you need to seek out. So you get in front of them. Hey, how are you? You know, I've been doing some research on your company and I see that you have these positions available. And if you don't have them available, here's my resume. I would love to hear from you. Do you have any volunteer opportunities?
Right.
Don't ever, ever, ever be afraid to volunteer, or don't ever think you're too good
Oh yeah.
not to volunteer.
Right.
Volunteering goes a long way. That way you get around those people that work for that company and they're like, when something comes open, they're like, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
Jane Doe, you know, I see her at events and stuff and she helps out and she's, you know, I feel like she's a good asset.
Right.
You're in there, so you definitely want to make sure you take advantage of that. So, but how to get the jobs, tell us more about what avenues to get the jobs and how to keep them.
Oh yes. So getting the jobs, definitely interview, apply. If you're sending out 5 resumes a day, you might as well be sending out 0 resumes a day. And also, don't tell the people, don't tell your coworkers this, but tell your friends and stuff that you are looking for a job. That goes a long way, because I could need an accountant and she can have an accounting degree, but because you didn't say anything, some people they're not humble enough. They're like, well, I don't want everybody knowing I need a job. I don't want everybody knowing that I want to make more money, so I'm gonna make it seem like I make so much money, I'm so happy. But if you're not saying anything, then I wouldn't know, and I could have 4 jobs that you could have, or that you could just get on the spot. You mentioned job fairs. We hired someone on the spot at a job fair. We needed a marketing person. She came, she knew who we were about, and we liked her, and we were like, you know what? And we said, you know what, let's just interview right now. Let's just sit down. I was with them, I'm an HR person, and I interviewed her, and I was like, I like her. The hiring manager just so happened to be with me. He interviewed her and we hired her on the spot. We were like, we could pack up. I mean, that was easy, so don't, even though that's the story that doesn't happen a lot, but don't think that it won't happen. To keep the job, absolutely. I talked to my coworker, he's a young guy, and he said to me that when you have a job, it's almost like having a GPA. Like, you come into the job with the 4.0, and the things that you do or don't do make you go down, then you 3.0, then you're lower, then you're 1.5, then you're kicked out of school, then you gotta appeal your case, you know what I mean, to stay in school. But that was a good example. I'm like, that's really good, so.
So it goes down, like, if you decide that you're gonna call out or you don't meet a deadline, it goes down to like 3.5.
Yeah.
You done messed around and called out 1.5. Yeah, 1.5, no probation.
Right.
So that's a good analogy to use. Like,
Yeah.
that's
I
good.
was like, that's pretty good. When you said it, I was like, I like that. It makes a lot of sense.
A lot.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's talk about one of the things that I feel, or I have observed as a millennial in the workplace, is that we job hop.
Yeah.
So we'll be on a job and in the beginning we're all, yeah, this is great. And then, like you said before, we have so many ideas and stuff like that. And sometimes, you may feel like you aren't taken seriously enough on this job, or you feel like I need more money.
Yeah.
Or this doesn't, I don't want to do this. We're in a generation where we are like free spirited. So, if I want to go out there, I like to work out, I want to be a fitness expert. Forget this degree, I'm going to go be a fitness expert. But what would you say to the job hopping thing for a lot of us who stay on a job for a year and then, I'm going to the next job. I'm going to the next job, because that's what made me realize that I didn't really have experience like that when I graduated.
Right.
Because I assumed that, I got all this, I'm smart, I got a master's degree, and I done worked at all these, look at my resume, I worked at all these places.
Yeah.
And then when you look into it, it's like, oh, you were here for a year, you were here for 2 years, you were there for another year. So why Why are you hopping from so many jobs?
Yeah, the job hopping does not look good. I mean, that's besides, your grammar and just basic things, that's one of the first things a hiring manager is looking at. They're like, well, dang, you only been here for 2 years. Why? And if you have that, they may or may not call you, but they're really not going to take you seriously. They're not going to think that you're vested. I would say try not to stay at a place less than 3 years. I mean, and that's just if you absolutely are like, no, I want more money, whatever. But what I would say to that too is, I had to learn this lesson myself, is when you're somewhere and you feel like someone is not giving you what you want, like if it's salary, for instance, or if they say, well, yeah, I'll give you a raise, but you have to learn how to monitor a budget. You have to learn that anyway, regardless if you work here, there, anywhere. And sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, a manager will tell you something, you get in your feelings. And you like, well, I'm smart, I don't know who I am, blah, blah, blah. And then in reality, maybe you didn't like how they said it, but they're just trying to help you. You have to learn it at a job anyway. So I would say don't leave a job before you literally have gotten all the skills that you can get. Don't get in your feelings about, some critical conversations that your boss may have with you. But also, unless it's a contract job, don't just stay for 6 months, a year if you can help it. Try to at least stay 3 years. That looks better.
That's touching on that, and we'll get into a whole another show on that topic. We are very, very what's the word to use? We are defensive.
Oh yeah.
Very defensive. And I myself, that's one of the things that I am working on. That's one of my weaknesses, especially when someone, and sometimes it could just be, hey, I just kind of looked at this and I just want to suggest, what you mean I did this wrong? I know,
what you mean?
So you all, and like I said, I'm definitely have been and am working on that, because our generation, we don't like to be told what to do. We have authority issues in a sense, and so we're definitely working on that. But we want to thank you all for tuning in to our show today.
Yes.
So join us next week. We'll be talking about juggling acts, how to juggle your career, your family, and just your social life. So we'll be touching on that. Share.
You can find us on the web at www.millennialmindstate.net. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Millennial Mindstate.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you. Bye.
We have many problems, we know how to hustle through it. Millennials run the world and we're here to prove it. We're millennials, this is how we do it. We make good money, but we're broken, we're going through it. We have many problems, we know how to hustle through it. Millennials run the world and we're here to prove it.